uh, I still kind of go more with my gut and my heart.
Yeah. Well, and that's, actually, and on a personal basis, I think that's a good thing. And Gail, most people have a dominant, like either gut or heart. I'm like you. I tend to lead with my gut, because we're risk takers. We've changed our lives many times. But for me, because I worked in corporate world for a long time, I shut down my heart. You can't have your heart show up. And so it was work for me to be able to open up and listen to my heart more, not just my gut. So most of the time, most people I work with use their brain, but also have a dominant heart or gut. And so we try to balance that. But in the workplace, you're absolutely right that, the whole in God we trust, everyone else bring data. It's all about data. But yet, many of those successful companies are having a lot of time retaining talent, especially now with the younger generation. People aren't happy. Engagement scores are at their lowest because they're not opening up and allowing people to talk and having meaningful conversations. And they may be doing well, but how long does that last? The longevity of good companies is not long unless they really engage people in a different way. They inspire their creativity through their gut and their heart. So I think that there's still a long way to go in even valuing the information that we get. And to remember, it's a balance of all three. Not to say that the brain's not important, but to bring in all three. And fear is also a big thing in the workplace, people not speaking up. It's still so prevalent. And again, having people to be able to speak up in any situation so we can bring that information into the space is so critical. So I think that even in these data-driven organizations, being able to balance all three is critical.
So, what prompted you to make the big life changes that you've made?
Well, besides that, I'm restless, and I'm one of those. So my second book was Wonder Woman, and that whole, I'd be excited about things, and about 3 years into it, I'd start to get bored, and 5 years I was gone and doing something else. So I have a little bit of a restless nature, but I have to say that there was a lot of times we talk about positive emotions, that we look for our passion and what we really want to create in life. And I think that's important. But a lot of people overlook the power of anger. And I'm often asking my clients who want to change their lives, I say, when is enough enough? When are you going to get angry? Either at yourself or at the organization or the people around you, and say, I'm not going to take this anymore and move on. There's been so many great things in life that people have accomplished under the power of, oh yeah, I'll show you. And even at the Harvard Decision Center, Harriet Lerner runs that. They've done quite a few studies on the positive power of anger, that anger is a launch for change. But then you need to shift it quickly to passion. So even in my younger years, when I was kind of messing up my life, there was, when I finally got my act together and I looked around and people were saying, oh, you're worthless. You're not going to accomplish anything in your life. It really was, I could take that on and feel badly about myself, or I could say, oh yeah, I'll show you. And that helped me to launch and to make the change. And in my last job, when I left 2 years of unvested stock on the table, and people were saying, "Oh, you're so stupid. You should stay a couple of years." And I'm like, "No, I'm tired of putting up with this. I will be fine, and I will be successful. I'll show you." you know. So there's energy. You have to have energy. So again, we go full circle back to the power of emotions. There must be emotion that's strong enough to overpower your fear. And one of my favorite sayings is by the activist Audre Lorde. And she says, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strengths in the service of my vision, it no longer becomes important that which I'm afraid. So again, what emotions can you activate to help you overcome your fears? And I think that was like the critical thing for me, that my emotions of both anger and passion were strong enough that helped me launch into a change in my life.
Interesting. And it's interesting that you used the emotion of anger,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to take it anymore, because I'm just wondering, there's got to be um, some positive emotions that make you want to make changes in your life. Are there not?
Well, yes, and I was saying that's I've used to launch absolute major changes in my life, where I just changed my life completely. But again, you have to shift that quickly into passion, desire, vision, what it is you want to create, because you can't live by anger and have it be productive.
I was
So
just going to
it's
say,
a
because
launch
that's gonna
emotion.
tear you down. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a launch emotion and then it needs to shift. But certainly, if you've got that strong desire to create something, and the passion, then you don't have to be angry.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
much prefer passion to being angry. I have to
yeah,
say.
right, right. But again, it just depends because you've used your gut so much of your life. A lot of people I work with get so enmeshed in their fear. And so something has to really get them out of their fear. And that's where I find, when is enough enough to be useful for them to at least take the first step and then move into what is it you want to create and have the passion.
Well, I think it's both the benefit and the curse of being an entrepreneur. I have been an entrepreneur all of my life. I
Uh-huh.
never worked for anybody else, even created my own job starting at the age of 13. I
Mm-hmm.
created every single job I ever had. And I worked for a certain period of time for a certain amount of money to do a certain
Right.
things, you know. And so, yeah, my gut has always driven me. And yet I see people who are so successful who
Mm-hmm.
really come from the logical viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to hear
Mm-hmm.
you say, where that love and gut do take a part and do play a part in all of this, because
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important. And
Well, I
and
want to, yeah,
yeah,
I just want to say something to that too, Gail, that remember, and most of the people I work with who are very logic data driven, whether they're a physician or an engineer or, also always run the risk of burnout. If they're only coming from head and working really hard to achieve and they're not activating heart, that's always a risk. And you'll see that it's huge, huge numbers in the burnout range. So, and to remember too that some of these data driven people are also activating their passion because there's something they want to create. So I'm not so sure, being that I worked in high tech with engineers for 11 years, I still think there's a balance there. Yeah.
so I want people to be able to find you, Marcia, because you're just like a mountain spewing all this information. So what is your website, and how can people get in touch with you?
My website is outsmartyourbrain.com. And I'm at Marcia, Marcia, at outsmartyourbrain.com. And that's the best way to find me and to go on to the website. I, read the blogs. I have a lot of uh, little quizzes and free things on the website as well.
That's wonderful. And I can tell you folks, Marcia has seen the world. I've been lucky enough to work in 50 countries, but I can tell you, Marcia's been in, I think, 35.
Mm-hmm.
And with the education and the knowledge and the simpatico that you get from working with different cultures is just phenomenal. It's just great.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
go to outsmartyourbrain.com, or if you want to email her, Marcia, Marcia, at outsmartyourbrain.com, to get in touch with her, because you'll be happy that you did. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Marcia. You have just been a delightful guest, and continued success.
No, thank you, Gail. I really enjoyed it.